This episode is brought to you by Farmers Insurance.
The Prime Minister of Niger's coup-imposed government strikes out at the EU for prepping to slap sanctions on the country. That's as locals cry foul over the crippling restrictions already imposed by the ECOWAS group.
Niger's economy is in danger of collapsing with these sanctions and threats from ECOWAS. ECOWAS' aim is to prevent the coup government from being able to install itself and rule peacefully.
Thousands take to the streets in Yemen, condemning the presence and military activities of the U.S. Navy, which has deployed 3,000 military personnel to the Red Sea. The Kenyan government and an opposition group meet to resolve political differences following violent protests over soaring living costs and tax increases.
Provide wireless service that helps people communicate and connect. We offer a variety of no-contract plans, and our U.S.-based customer service team can help find one that fits you. To learn more, visit consumercellular.tv.
Some things just make you feel more alive than others. Like the rush of adrenaline from an SUV that roars from 0 to 60 in 3.8 seconds. Jaguar delivers that thrill every day. The F-Pace, how Jaguar makes an SUV.
Will Turkey ratify Sweden's NATO membership? Stockholm says it can't fulfill all Ankara's demands. As the bloc's membership requires unanimous approval, what would make Turkey change its mind? And what does all of this mean for NATO's future? This is Inside Story. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Mohammed Jamjoom. One of the many fallouts of Russia's invasion of Ukraine has been that previously neutral Nordic countries
in the 2023 Integra. So the first thing you notice about this, well, you have a really nice low seating hybrid max version. I will be driving the regular gas and hopefully the hybrid as well later on here. But as far as the hybrid max goes, it's of course the most luxurious one, the quietest. This one also has acoustic noise control here in the hybrid max version, so that'll give you some extra quietness. But all Grand Highlanders here do have acoustic glass for the windshield and for the front windows, and so it's going to give you, a little bit of a quieter ride here. And we're just cruising slowly here on a resort road, but in this we're even in the electric mode here, so you hear that pedestrian warning sound here. But otherwise, really nice and quiet. Obviously, this road isn't too bumpy or rough or anything, but very smooth, very comfortable here. Of course, you do have a multi-link suspension and all that, so it helps to smooth out all the bumps. And another thing that's really great you'll notice here, first off in the Grand Highlander, is the visibility. They did a really good job on the visibility, and it's better than some of the competitors, I'd say, with one of the thinnest A-pillars here. So you have a really unobstructed view looking forward. The door mirrors are right off onto the doors there. They're not at the base of the A-pillar like a Honda Pilot and some of the others. So I think it's actually one of the better ones visibility-wise. Also, out back you have a great view like you always get from a crossover like this. But this one also does have the optional camera rearview mirror, which you can get, and that'll give you an unobstructed view if you do have a bunch of people in the back there. And also here in the Hybrid Max, you have punchier electric motors. And even at low speeds here, I'm noticing that the gas engine is also running, but it's really responsive. And like the second you tip into the gas, you get a nice hearty shove in your back there, and it just gives you a much more powerful feeling than basically all the other competitors out there, which just don't offer any kind of higher powertrain like this does. Really, the only other one is the Mazda CX-90 now, but this is really immediate. Again, being hooked up to a normal 6-speed automatic transmission here in the Hybrid Max versions, and those beefy electric motors really help. And it's also one of the reasons why you have full-time all-wheel drive here in the Hybrid Max. It's an on-demand all-wheel drive system in the Hybrid, and then it's a normal traditional all-wheel drive system that's mechanically connected in the regular gas version. But here in this, I mean, you have that powerful electric motor always providing some punch there in the rear, and it can go to 80% of the power to the rear, by the way, which we'll test out. And let's turn out onto this back road and see how it accelerates. Here we go. All right, nice and responsive. Wow. Okay. Wow, this thing it's actually pretty punchy, I have to say. Wow, so we're running a 2.4-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine combined with multiple electric motors here in the front and in the rear, and all combined it gives you 362 horsepower, 400 pound-feet of torque, and a 6.3 second 0 to 60 time. And man, this really feels strong. Really, actually better than I was expecting, because there's a similar powertrain in the Lexus RX 500, and in that it felt good, but strangely it feels punchier in this to me. I'm not sure why, but man, it is a good amount of power. And I know, for a vehicle like this, most people don't need to have some type of super fast vehicle, but for those who do want a punchier power delivery here, I mean, this is really, really nice feeling. And it also helps because these things are heavy. Once you get up to these fully loaded versions, this one's like 4,920 pounds fully loaded up with this top powertrain. So I mean, it's heavy, but honestly, I mean, it really feels stronger than I was expecting it to feel. And that is, by the way, that 6.3 second time is over a second quicker than the turbo and the hybrid versions, which are in the mid 7-second range. And so, but the electric motor too, it immediately kicks in and just starts giving you this wave of power. And it's really easy to go faster than you're intending to go with this thing, because it's really quick. And honestly, I would say that it also actually feels a little quicker off the line than even the Mazda CX-90 Turbo S, which is the performance version that has a 6-cylinder that's turbocharged, and it's really the enthusiast, sportiest one out there. But this basically matches it on horsepower and actually beats it on torque. So, I mean, that has a different platform and it's a little more sportier with its setup. But I'd say as far as straight line performance goes, this is like really actually a little bit better, I think, and probably the punchiest in the mainstream 3-row segment. It's really, I think it's my favorite as far as power delivery goes in the segment. Really, really well done. Other things I'm noticing here in sport mode, you have nice tight steering. We're not on any corners here yet, so I'm not able to judge the handling just yet, but it's... I really like this combo. It feels great. And also, as we're leaning on the brakes here to slow us down from these higher speeds, the brakes feel great as well. Obviously, nothing super sporty here, but plenty of braking power. And it does grab right towards the top of the pedal there, and it's a very natural feeling brake pedal, which you don't always get with other hybrids. So it's really well done as far as all that goes too. And it's running again through a 6-speed automatic transmission, which might sound like an interesting choice considering the regular gas has an 8-speed automatic, and you have an eCVT in the hybrid. But the 6-speed auto works really well, and it's always in the right gear basically because you have all the electric assist, so that any time where you would think maybe there's going to be a little bit of turbo lag here, or maybe it's going to be caught off guard being in too high of a gear, I've never felt that yet. We'll see with our drive here today if I experience any of that at any point in time, but so far it seems like it's always got immediate power for me, and it's really great. I mean, even if you don't need to have the fastest thing possible, just having it do exactly what you want it to do whenever you put your foot down is honestly a little bit uncommon in this segment. There's a lot of others that are a little complicated and a little confused sometimes with the transmission not being in the right gear and stuff. This is really well set up so far. And really like the powertrain here in the Hybrid Max. Alright, so now we got some nice corners here on these mountain roads here in Kona, Hawaii, where we're at, and it's just beautiful out here. But anyway, as far as the handling here in the Hybrid Max, again, having that full-time all-wheel drive system means you always got power going to the rear, so it makes it pretty neutral. And so even though this thing again weighs almost 5,000 pounds, this is a nice sweeping corner here, a little decreasing radius, and honestly, it's really nice and flat, really good body control, even though there aren't any kind of adaptive suspension components or anything. It's just a regular, multi-link suspension here, but it's still just really nice and flat. And again, this power is so punchy. And I was even driving in normal mode a little bit earlier, and it's also always punchy in normal mode too, so it's not like it's just sport modes set up to be super fast feeling or anything. Like, all the modes still feel great. And you also have a snow mode and all that, so you have various modes depending on your circumstances there. But yeah, this thing is just, we're going up a mountain road in a 5,000-pound crossover, and this thing is just accelerating like it's nothing. It's really impressive. And yeah, steering is nice and accurate. There's a little bit of feel through it. Obviously, it's a three-row crossover, so I'm not going to review this like a sports car, but the steering feels good. Body control is good. It's still super smooth with the ride, and even whenever you're hustling in here on a back road, it just feels really well controlled. This TNGA-K platform is really good, and also the fact that here with the Grand Highlander, you have a longer wheelbase than the regular Highlander. You also have a wider track, so it's going to handle better and be more stable than the regular Highlander, which it's been a couple of years since I drove one of those, so I don't have a super fresh comparison there to give you, but I can just say that that handled fine. But this certainly is going to just have a bigger footprint, and so therefore should be a little more confidence-inspiring around corners, and it just feels great. That's the bottom line. It feels awesome. I don't think you're going to have any complaints. And the fact that you can send 80% of the power to the rear here in the Hybrid Max version, and in most of the other versions, they all have a pretty good rear bias if it needs it. Just means you have very dynamic power delivery here. Although there was one point where I did stomp on it with the wheel turn, and I did feel a little bit of torque steer. So maybe at low speeds and some really challenging circumstances, you might feel like for a split second before that electric motor in the back comes in to give you some extra assistance there. But overall, it just really feels very polished, very refined, and just feels like a great handler here. Again, not like you need that in a thing like this, but just really nice. This is one of the better handling three-row crossovers in my opinion. And then really the last thing to say about the Hybrid Max version here is the fuel economy is still really great. So it's awesome that you really have no compromise. You kind of have all the power, and you still get much better fuel economy than most of the other vehicles in the three-row crossover segment. This thing's going to be rated at 26 mpg in the city, 27 on the highway, and 27 combined as well. And so, with that fuel economy, again, it's just like you're going to have way better efficiency, way better power. Just you get to have your cake and eat it too here with the Hybrid Max, as long as you're okay paying the premium over a regular gas or a regular hybrid version. And the regular hybrid will do better fuel economy, but that's also going to have a lot less power, so it's going to be up to you as far as whether it's worth this slight few mpg better than you do get in that regular hybrid version. But I think it's really, again, if you can afford to go for the Hybrid Max, it really is the best of all the worlds, and definitely be the way I would go if I could afford one of the top ones, and that was what I was looking for. I think 100% this is the way to go as far as my favorite Grand Highlander. But let's check out the regular gas version and see how that drives. And here we go. Sounds good, this motor. Getting a little bit of torque steer almost here because it's putting on the power pretty aggressively, but honestly, that's pretty quick, I gotta say. So the 2.4-liter Turbo 4 gas version here has 265 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque. It'll do about a 7.5 second 0 to 60 time. And so, of course, yes, it doesn't feel nearly as impressive as the Hybrid Max with the power, but honestly, it's not bad from a power standpoint here. I gotta say, stop on it again. It's gaining speed pretty well here. So, how it compares to the competitors, a lot of competitors have V6s that have a little bit more horsepower, or even Turbo 4s that have a little more horsepower, but this has more torque than most of those with that 310 pound-feet. So I think what you're going to feel is that whenever you're getting up and going at lower speeds, that's where you're going to really feel this motor actually feel a little punchier than those V6s. Once you get up to some higher speeds, it might not feel quite as impressive as some of those V6s that might have a little bit more horsepower. But I wouldn't consider this underpowered by any means. I don't think that it's, feels slow or anything. So I think, if you're someone who doesn't need to have all the power, you want to save some money and go for a regular gas version here, you don't need the better fuel economy of the hybrid or whatever, I think this is a great choice still. And again, the fact they've priced this so, aggressively, honestly, it's really impressive how this compares to its main competitors. And so I think that, if you don't need to have the most power, which is, I think, most three-row crossover buyers, then the regular gas one is a great choice still. A couple other things I mentioned here about the regular gas version that are different than the Hybrid Max is the transmission. It runs an 8-speed automatic instead of the 6-speed in the Hybrid Max, and the 8-speed is really good with this shift so far, nice and smooth. It's a normal torque converter, so it feels very normal and natural, nice and responsive even in normal mode here. Gives me the power I'm looking for whenever I lean into the gas there. And yeah, I think it's really well set up again for this turbo motor and taking advantage of those lower RPMs. But then it's not scared to go up to those higher RPMs, whenever you just go a little bit more on the gas. It's right there and very responsive feeling, so I like that. Also here you get a different all-wheel drive system in the regular gas versions here. So all-wheel drive is an option. You can get these with front-wheel drive here in the lowest trims. And so, but this one does have the all-wheel drive. And the all-wheel drive system, it's really nice because it actually has a mechanical connection here for the gas version. And so that means that, instead of the E-motor thing you rely on with the Hybrid and the Hybrid Max versions, with this it's always, a direct connection there. But like the others, it works the same way where you have, it's shuffling power around and going to front-wheel drive only if it doesn't need to have those rear wheels turning, so then you can have better fuel economy and all that. And so, yeah, I think it's really nicely set up, and gratefully offer these with front-wheel drive still. Some other competitors going all-wheel drive only now. The fact you can still get this with front-wheel drive if you live in a sunny place, you don't need to have all-weather capability. I think it's great that they do offer the front-wheel drive option. But as far as fuel economy goes, you're going to be getting, as far as the gas versions go, the best fuel economy here, of course, with the front-wheel drive version. But you don't have too much of a penalty whenever you go up to the all-wheel drive version. The front-wheel drive gas version will need 21 mpg in the city, 28 on the highway, and 24 combined. And you only give up 1 to 2 mpg in all those metrics going for the all-wheel drive system. So a very minor penalty for the all-wheel drive, which shows just how smart Toyota's all-wheel drive system is, even in these ones where it still has that physical connection there. And they only have 243 horsepower, which is less than what you're going to be getting with, all the other versions. But one thing I really like about this hybrid system is you still have a nice electric punch there very early on. So it always feels, nice and punchy from the get-go. And so doing an acceleration here,
let's get crazy.
I still spun the tires for a split second there. Traction control came on, and I'm already up to 60 miles per hour. So it's still not slow. It's a 7.8 seconds 0 to 60, which, yes, isn't super quick, but for this segment, there's a lot of stuff that's, the same kind of performance, and yet with this, you get way better fuel economy. Again, getting 36 mpg in the city, 32 on the highway, 34 combined. And, so I mean, it's getting up and moving pretty quickly. I do not think this feels pokey whatsoever. The thing that's misleading too is 243 horsepower in this segment doesn't sound like a lot, but none of those others have an electric motor to give you that instant zap that you get here with this. And yes, I mean, these are, heavy, and this is probably, 4,500 pounds, if not maybe even a little bit more. But amazingly, this motor's actually doing a really good job of moving this thing really well still, just from, again, doing a quick little acceleration there. Yeah, overall, pretty happy with this. And I mean, just the fact that, you're going to be saving so much gas in the actual kind of usage cases that people put these things through. Driving, in suburban roads and, drive-through lines and school pickup lines. All that stuff can be done electrically. And that's something you can say about the Hybrid Max as well. But if you don't have the money to jump up to one of those, higher Hybrid Max versions, it's great that they offer the regular hybrid here. And I mean, I'm going uphill and I'm not even full throttle, and it's really accelerating nicely. So don't be scared off by the lower horsepower rating. This is really great. At least take a hybrid for a test drive if you're interested in getting better fuel economy. As far as the gas version here, still really nice as far as, just the ride quality and everything. This road's a little bit bumpier even right now. We've got some rain starting to come down here, but it's still so comfortable.
Now that's volume at 14. Let's get some volume.
So setting off here in the 2023 Integra. So the first thing you notice about this, well, you have a really nice slow seating coming out of the Premium, is that this has definitely heavier steering. That mostly comes down to probably the 245 wide tires versus the 225s you get on regular Mach-E's. And also, I think they also just made it a little sportier here for the GT as well. And so it just feels sportier from the first second you turn the steering wheel in this thing. It also feels a little bit sportier with the ride. So they definitely have a sportier suspension, again, to go along with the lowered suspension. And, you know, obviously it's a little bit stiffer for performance reasons, but that just means that out here on the road, you know, I mean, at least at, you know, low speeds so far that I've been doing, it's, you know, a tiny bit bumpier. Now, it still is fine, it's still comfortable, and if you're used to something that's performance-oriented like this GT is, you're probably not going to have an issue with it whatsoever. But if you do want to have a little bit more adjustability, the Performance Edition does give you the MagneRide adaptive dampers, and that supposedly makes the ride the best out of all the Mach-E's. And so definitely, you know, it's probably something worth getting if you know, do find the ride a little bit lacking here in a regular GT. That, by the way, for that Performance Edition package, it's $6,000 and a few other things that it gives you, you know, along with the seats and stuff. But anyway, other things, visibility is great like in all the other Mach-E's, you know, very good view forward, view out of the sides is good, view out of the back is also pretty good thanks to that extra little cutout at the top there. Other things here, so brakes have a nice and progressive feeling to them here. Now this press vehicle has 8,000 miles on it, so I think that certainly helps because our brand new Premium Mach-E actually has kind of touchy brakes and it's a little tricky to be smooth with, but I believe that's just part of the wearing in process. And this one, you know, having 8,000 likely hard miles. Let's turn down onto this back road here and see how it does. Here we go. Wow. Whoa. Jeez, man, this thing, it's fast. Wow. And it really takes off very, very well. And it's interesting though, I'm not sure why, but when I take my foot off the gas, it continues accelerating for a solid like second before it actually starts, you know, coming back off the power there. So that's interesting, very, very interesting. Not the most precise, honestly, because of that. I'm not sure why it's doing that. You also do get increased regen here in the unbridled mode. So maybe I'll do an acceleration and engage in a minute and see if that unintended acceleration thing is still present here. I believe there was a recall for that, but I would assume this vehicle has that already done. But anyway, very impressive performance here. So all GTs get 480 horsepower, which is 134 more than what you get on a regular Mach-E for the most powerful version of the regular ones. And then you get 600 pound-feet of torque. And if that's not enough for you, the Performance Edition gives you 634 pound-feet of torque. But anyway, it adds up to giving you a 3.8 second 0 to 60 time here for the regular GT. It's a 3.5 second 0 to 60 if you go for that Performance Edition. And
let's get back to the music.
Wow, this thing is impressive. The hood really is. I like the little sounds too. It does have a propulsion sound on currently, but I still think it sounds really good, you know, just having that little bit of extra sound. But yeah, we're going to engage and try another acceleration here now. Actually got some wheel spin that time. Okay, so engage definitely ramps down the throttle, so when I take my foot off the gas, it does slow down better. So just unbridled that has that strange effect there. But I'm going to put it back into the unbridled mode, just give us the sportiest settings for everything here. But it really is a good amount of punch. I also really love how the GTs have a little power meter here. It's very small, but it's in the bottom left there and shows you the regen and how much power it's putting out. The regular Mach-E's don't have that. And that's something I really would like to have on a regular Mach-E because it's nice to have. But anyway, coming up some corners here, I always take in all my reviews here. Let's see how the GT version handles. So this thing is 5,000 pounds here for the GT. And we're still only on 245 wide tires, but wow, this thing, it's handling better than I was expecting it to, honestly. I was really, you know, didn't have high hopes of these all-season tires, but really nice. The steering is kind of stiff, but I think it just really gives it a nice weighty and confidence-inspiring feeling. Okay, but yeah. Oh yeah, it'll play around with you though. I mean, you know, even though this is only a 50-50 split for the power here, you only get a 60-40 split in the Performance Edition in the unbridled extend mode. But even with you know, just the 50-50 split, this thing really, you know, when they kick the back end out, that's one thing I really love about the Mach-E's. They did try and make it feel a little more rear-wheel drive bias to give you a little more of that Mustang flavor and character. And so I do appreciate that, but I mean, I could tell though the back end was wanting to, you know, kick out a tiny bit, but then the front end was also starting to lose grip simultaneously. simultaneously, I think I would just go for the Performance Edition, honestly. $6,000 is a significant upcharge, but to have the summer tires, I think is a really nice improvement. Or just go buy your own summer tires, I suppose, if you don't need all the other stuff with the Performance Edition. I think, even a performance all season, I don't know why Ford didn't put like the Pilot Sport all season tire, because they do have a great all season that still has, better performance capabilities than a regular all season like these Continentals. So I'm not sure why they didn't release spring for those. But this thing though, it's a handful. It really is a handful. And I find myself being on my toes a little more in this than I did in the GV60 Performance that I had a couple weeks ago from Genesis. That has very similar performance as far as acceleration goes, very similar amounts of power and all of that. But that was a little more confident in its handling. It just ripped and went, and it was just very, very confidence inspiring. This is exhilarating. It's less confidence inspiring. It doesn't scare me necessarily, but it certainly keeps you on your toes, and it makes you have to just make sure that you're not being an idiot in this vehicle. I think you could probably get away with a little bit more stupid driving in the GV60 than you can in this. This thing could kind of bite back a little bit, which I like though. That's the same kind of Mustang character, same thing with the regular Mustangs. And my Mustang Bullet that I own, that thing also, if you act like an idiot, it will get out of shape on you. And so I kind of like that. I think this GT actually does feel a little bit more like a Mustang now than the regular Premium did. That was one of my complaints with the regular Premium, is aside from the slightly more tail-happy back end, it didn't really feel very much like a Mustang. This, being a little bit wilder and being a little more sketchy, honestly, with its handling, I think actually helps. I'd really love to try out, one of these on summer tires to see how they compare back to back and see if you lose some of that character with the better grip or not. Let's do another acceleration just for fun. Man, yeah, this thing, it's impressive. Now, I will say that the power starts to taper off a little bit around like maybe 50 miles an hour, so that's when it, it gets a little less intense, but it still pulls very, very strong, and it's still so fast. I mean, we're talking about a vehicle that does 0 to 60 in under 4 seconds. I mean, it's wild performance. And also, whenever you want to slow yourself down, the GTs do have good grip there. I mean, that acceleration, I was like, maybe 3/4 throttle with the wheel turn, and, still hung on pretty good here. And so, I mean, the 245s are definitely a huge improvement over the 225s of a regular Mach-E, that's for sure. Because the regular Mach-E, the understeer is pretty apparent pretty early on. You can't really push those, a whole lot. They still handle pretty well, but the 245s here are a very nice upgrade. Yeah, I mean, it turns in really nicely and just, feels really good as far as the handling goes. And 5,000 pounds is the curb weight. Does it feel like 5,000 pounds? No. Thanks to the battery being in the floor there, nice and low, and, very low center of gravity. I'd say this feels closer to like, a little over 4,000 pounds from the seat of the pants, at least in my opinion. And some more corners here. Try it out again. Yeah, it's really nice and neutral. I would love to try the 60-40 split of the Performance Edition in the Unbridled Extend mode, but also in that mode it will also give you louder propulsion sounds and also relax the aids so that you have more lenient stability control system, so you can get a little more slidey, I'm sure. But yeah, I mean, the tires will protest if you, start accelerating a little too early out of a corner. But, I think it actually does very well as far as the handling goes, even on the all-season tires. It's better than I expected it, honestly. And but it's easy, you want more grip. It's an easy tire upgrade away, even on a regular GT here, but it's still a very good handling car. And now we're coming up some potholes here, and let's see how this vehicle does. Again, on these 20-inch wheels, pretty thin sidewalls, but not too bad. And the sport suspension, I mean, it really glides over most of them. I mean, it's really not that bad. It's still very nice and very daily drivable, not bad at all. And it's great that, again, you do have a Magna Ride option with the Performance Edition if, that is something that, man, wheel spin at like 30 miles an hour. That was wild. It's so funny, this thing's all-wheel drive, and it still is really loving to rip these tires. And also, I think part of the reason why is because the bigger front motor is the only upgrade. There is no bigger rear motor. It's the same rear motor as any other Mach-E, so it's just way more power to the front, and so...
Good day. The free-to-play genre is pretty much only found on the PC. I imagine some free-to-play games must exist on consoles, but I would imagine that they are fairly rare. Now, the games found in this genre are either of middling or average quality, but then you get some true greats, like League of Legends and Blacklight Retribution. And now we come to Warframe, a free-to-play game released in March of this year, and it is definitely one of the greats. The game is a third-person shooter that can either be played cooperatively or solo, and in addition to the shooting, it also has some hack-and-slash elements. And as of the latest update, you may actually be doing just as much hacking and slashing as you will be doing shooting, as the sword's power has been greatly increased. Graphically, the game looks great, and the levels and characters and enemies are all highly detailed. And the animations for the characters are really quite impressive, especially for a free-to-play game. You can find yourself doing backflips and rolls, and one thing I find really cool is the fact that your character can actually climb. The sheer number of animations your character has is nothing short of amazing. Most games that you actually pay for don't have these kinds of animations. The story for the game is pretty basic. You are a Tenno, otherwise known as a space ninja, and you have to fight forces of vaguely defined evil. Really, story is unimportant. You go forth and kill things. The missions are good, but basic. You collect artifacts, you kill leaders, you blow up mining equipment, general stuff, but at least it gives your missions purpose. You can carry 2 weapons with you at any given time, and they and you level up as you complete missions. You can get more weapons by leveling up and through microtransactions. The game has a wide variety of levels to play through, but they're kind of like the Model T in that you can have any color. Essentially, many of the levels look alike. This is due to the fact that the game uses procedural level generation. In all reality, though, the levels don't get boring despite this. In the end, this is a great co-op shooter, and one I would definitely recommend checking out, especially since it's free. And so, this is John, wishing you good Dead Space, good Dead Space 2, or whatever makes you happy.
U.S. troops have deployed in the Red Sea. And this is something that they took out to the streets today to strongly condemn, strongly denounce.
All right, so now let's do a sound test. Now, on a side note, make sure you put your headphones on or watch this video using a quality system. If you're using your iPhone or your Galaxy, it's just going to sound like music. All right, so I'm going to start off at 50% volume with my custom EQ settings. Here we go. Okay, now right away I can tell you this speaker has a lot of clarity, but let's increase to max volume. Start it over, here we go. Okay, let's try a different song. Okay, let's find out. All right, so I got two Motion Boom Plus speakers paired together. Now to sync them up using True Wireless Stereo, real simple. Just hit the button on the first speaker, hit the same button on the second speaker. It takes less than 5 seconds. All right, here we go, max volume.
Yo, I got a question for you. Yeah. How many times you knew I was checking for you? How many? Put it on the line, grab the weapon for you. For real. I was front line, I was repping for you. Tracker, came by myself, I was stepping for you. Tracker, turned the L to a lesson for you. Cash, turned one night to a blessing for you. You didn't think I'd do something special for you, but I wouldn't do nothing special unless it's for you. Fact, and that's the thing about it. And I can't sleep at night when I think about it. These niggas think they got it, but I really got it. These niggas think they profit, but I really profit. I done left the town, got it really poppin'. These niggas window shop when I'm really copping. I'm from the city where niggas be milli rockin'. I might pull up in 650s with silly options. What's the mathematics? You still stick around if I ain't have cabbage? Would you come to my shows if I rap average? Except on my flaws and my bad habits. Heal all my wounds from the backstabbers. And never be someone who will backstab me. Never. Ready for that ride in the black caddy. My son wants son, tell him ask daddy. He'll be mad happy. But I'm just trying to chill and twist the line. Catch stunts in my 740 drop. Dropping crazy shorty queens. Just wanna see you feel real.
Okay, let's try the original Motion Boom and see how much different it sounds compared to the Motion Boom Plus. All right, so let's start off with the Motion Boom. Now, if you notice, the Motion Boom is a lot smaller than the Motion Boom Plus. So it shouldn't be as loud, but let's put it to the test. Here we go. Okay, so we maxed out at 89. Here's the Motion Boom Plus. Okay, let's kind of wrap this up. All right, so now let's do a sound test. And on a side note, make sure you put your headphones on or watch this video using the quality system. Because if you're just using your phone, everything is going to sound the same. Now, one more thing. If you notice, it does have strobe lights in the woofers. Okay, I love that. Hashtag RGB Life. All right, here we go. I'm going to start off at max volume. The EQ is set to music with extra bass. Here we go. Okay, hold up. But you got the RGB lights. Now, let's try another song. Okay, let's find out. All right, so we got two Stormbox blasts paired together. Now to sync them up, real simple. Just go to the first speaker, hold down the Bluetooth pairing button for 5 seconds, do the same thing on the second one, and it'll automatically connect. All right, here we go, max volume.
Yo, I got a question for you. How many times you knew I was checking for you? How many? Put it on the line, grab the weapon for you. For real, I was front line, I was repping for you. Tracker, came by myself, I was stepping for you. Tracker, turned the L to a lesson for you. Cash, turned one night to a blessing for you. You didn't think I'd do something special for you, but I wouldn't do nothing special unless it's for you. And that's the thing about it. And I can't sleep at night when I think about it. These niggas think they got it, but I really got it. These niggas think they profit, but I really profit. I done left the town, got it really poppin'. These niggas window shot when I'm really copping. I'm from the city where niggas be milli rockin'. I might pull up in 650s with silly options, but what's the mathematics? Would you still stick around if I ain't have cabbage? Would you come to my shows if I rapped average? Except on my flaws and my bad habits. Heal all my wounds from the backstabbings. And never be someone who would backstab me. Never. Ready for that ride in the black caddy. My son wants son, tell him ask daddy. He'll be mad happy, but I'm just trying to chill and twist the line. Catch stunts on my 745. Driving crazy, shorty queens. Just wanna see you and feel real. But if I
Let's find out. All right, let's settle this debate right now. All right, so this is it. Soundcore Motion Boom Plus versus the Tri-Bit Stormbox Blast. Now, I'm going to start off with the champ, the Soundcore Motion Boom Plus. Here we go.
Yo, I got a question for you. How many times you knew I was checking for you? How many? Put it on the line, grab the weapon for you. For real, I was front line, I was repping for you. Tracker, came by myself, I was stepping for you. Tracker, turned the L to a lesson for you. Cash, turned one night to a blessing for you. You didn't think I'd do something special for you, but I wouldn't do nothing special unless it's for you. And that's the thing about it. And I can't sleep at night when I think about it. These niggas think they got it, but I really got it. These niggas think they profit, but I really profit. I done left the town, got it really poppin'. These niggas window shot when I'm really copping. I'm from the city where niggas be milli rockin'. I might pull up in 650s with silly options, but what's the mathematics? Would You still stick around if I ain't have cabbage? Would you come to my shows if I rapped average? Except on my flaws and my bad habits. Heal all my wounds from the backstabbers. And never be someone who would backstab me. Never. Ready for that ride in the black caddy. My son wants son, tell him ask daddy. He'll be mad happy. But I'm just trying to chill and twist the line. Catch.
Okay, here's the Stormbox Blast.
Yo, I got a question for you. How many times you knew I was checking for you? How many? Put it on the line, grab the weapon for you. For real, I was front line, I was repping for you. Trapper, came by myself, I was stepping for you. Trapper, turned the L to a lesson for you. Cash, turned one night to a blessing for you. You didn't think I'd do something special for you, but I wouldn't do nothing special unless it's for you. And that's the thing about it. And I can't sleep at night when I think about it. These niggas think they got it, but I really got it. These niggas think they profit, but I really profit. I done left the town, got it really poppin'. These niggas window shot when I'm really copping. I'm from the city where niggas be milli rockin'. I might pull up in 650s with silly options, but what's the mathematics? Would you still stick around if I ain't have cabbage? Would you come to my shows if I rapped average? Except on my flaws and my bad habits. Heal all my wounds from the backstabbers. And never be someone who would backstab me. Never. Ready for that ride in the black caddy. My son wants son, tell him ask daddy. He'll be mad happy. But I'm just trying to chill and twist the line.
Okay, let's go ahead and wrap this up. All right.
Welcome to Classic Game Room. Get ready to relive the past. Historically accurate, this is Strikers, 1945. That's quite an echo on the Neo Geo. The year is 1945, and it's time to blow things up with airplanes on your Neo Geo MVS with Strikers 1945 Plus. Why is it plus? Because it has a bit of the extra awesome, that's why. This game is incredibly fun and a must-have for your Neo Geo. Too bad it's really expensive, but you may be able to find one out there on one of those compilation cartridges, which is what I'm playing this from. It's on my 111-in-1 MVS cart, and it's worth its weight in gold. It's just a great game. This is a 1999 release from Psikyo. I love their company name, Psikyo. And this is up there with one of those must-have shoot-'em-ups that you don't hear too much about, like Prehistoric Isle 2, but I think once you play Strikers 1945 Plus, you'll be hooked. Because it's a very straightforward game. It plays a lot like other vertical scrolling shooters like Aero Fighters. And each time you play the game, it's a little bit different, the levels are mixed up, and there's a lot of airplanes to choose from, and most importantly, loads of things to destroy. Because you don't play these games to make friends. You play them to watch things explode into fireballs and score big points. Hopefully that thing exploding isn't you, but this game is tricky. It's inevitable that it will happen from time to time. Strikers 1945 is also available on the PlayStation and Sega Saturn. I did a quick search on eBay to look for those. It's not terribly expensive on the home game systems. It appears this is also on PlayStation 2 and PSP. The Neo Geo version, as you can see, looks and sounds amazing. It's just tons of fun, plays really well, and has a very playable difficulty curve. The first level is challenging but not impossible, and then each level from there just gets harder and harder and harder, and by level 3 it's just a really hard game. But still approachable. I think fans of this genre should most definitely find a way to play this one. Take that, stupid battle tank. One of the greatest features in Strikers 1945 is the multiple airplanes that you can choose from, each of which has its own standard attack and a special attack. Let me explain this. You see that gauge on the left of the screen that says Super Shot? Well, hammering away at the fire button or holding the fire button down will charge your Super Shot, and then you'll hear that little whoop sound go off. Terrible impersonation, but you know what I'm talking about. And that means that you hold down the fire button and unleash whatever super shot that particular plane has. You also have bombs, which usually act as more of a plane shield, super powerful weapon than an actual bomb, but they'll fly out and give you some protection and contribute to the overall damage. As you'll quickly find out, depending on which plane you choose, the more powerful the super shot, the longer it takes to charge. This simple feature gives Strikers 1945 Plus a ton of replay value, because each plane is so totally different. I'm still not sure which one is my favorite. I think that the ones with the more powerful super shots are generally better, because you can stockpile those things and then unleash them during boss battles. Let's take a look at one of the easier planes to use, the Flying Pancake, which has a weaker yet faster charging super shot. Also, it's named after pancakes, and I love pancakes. You can enjoy this game 1 or 2 players, and while it's not the most visually exciting or striking game on the Neo Geo, striking strikers, get it? The overall fun value and gameplay more than makes up for the somewhat dull level design and graphical presentation. It's definitely one of the best, and as far as I'm concerned, if you're collecting for this thing, it's a must-have. I haven't tried the console versions yet, but if they're anything like this, they gotta be good. And that's why I saved my super shots. It's Strikers 1945 Plus for the Neo Geo MVS. Highly recommended. A game that's fun to play, no matter what year it is.
Recognize the admission of Finland and Sweden to NATO, because we all know that, looking from an historical perspective, NATO members have brought the national issues to the...
Okay, are we really going to call the Ford LTD LX a sports sedan? Or is Ford just trying to get the most out of their already spent investment dollars with yet another throwback model? I mean, if you've ever driven a traditional big Ford, you probably think that sports sedan and LTD are mutually exclusive. LTD, now that stands for overboosted, dead as a doornail power steering and wallowy ride, right? True once, but not in this LTD LX. Even the standard LTD is not a typical big is better Ford. Based on the same downsized Fairmont Granada chassis that spawned the current Mustang and Thunderbird, Ford has already proved that rear-drive cars can compete in a front-drive world. This LTD LX answers to the helm like no big Ford sedan before. Firm steering and a controlled ride that makes a good run at rivaling Germany's best in response and feel. Take your favorite twisty road and the LTD LX is eager to prove that it's no boat. The smoky-inspired suspension is stiff. The shocks are gas-filled and the stabilizer bars thicker than on the plebeian LTDs. The result, little body roll and only a manageable amount of front scrub under hard cornering. Goodyear Eagle GT tires help keep everything sticking to the terra firma. Combined with the Thunderbird's 4-bar link coil spring rear suspension, they keep the tail from providing too much of its own steering input until plenty of warning is given. And that we found on a wet and icy track. But even though the LTD LX might do well on an alpine adventure, it's also going to be happy doing a remake of Thunder Road. The unmistakable rumble from the chrome tailpipes tells the tale. Ford has stuffed the latest version of the old 302 iron block V8 under hood. It's actually only 4.9 liters in displacement, but 5 even looks much better on the 2-arm air cleaner. It feeds a twin throttle body fuel injection system, a concession to modern times, for output of 165 horsepower and 245 pounds of torque, and that peak torque occurs at only 2,000 RPM. So there's a potent power band from idle to well past legal speeds. 0 to 60 takes a fast 8.7 seconds. And with suspension upgrades and the LX's standard traction lock rear end, there's less wheel hop on fast starts than we've found on a lot of earlier high-performance efforts from Ford. A fast quarter mile was clicked off too, 16.5 seconds at 81, and that reads well for a 4-speed automatic in anyone's hot car catalog. Passing as expected, also a breeze. With crisp downshifts, the LTD-LX took only 3.6 neck-snapping seconds from 40 to 55 miles per hour. We ran all our tests in dry weather too, so we can attest to good braking in the LTD-LX whatever the weather. Despite traditional Ford nosedive, again less than before, stops were straight and not grabby. We did notice the power-assisted disc drum system had a fairly spongy-feeling pedal, but distances from 55 of only 124 feet indicate a very sound system to us. While the LTD-LX has a cop engine, cop suspension, and cop tires, it has a Euro flavor appearance that a true low-bid John Law model can only envy. Trim is laid back, with dark headlight inserts and red accents all around. The 70 series rubber comes on 14-inch road wheels with unusual rubber lug covers. Inside, charcoal cloth promotes a seriously eerie look. It makes the LTD-LX seem much smaller and more intimate than it really is. Ford's excellent sports seats, complete with 6-way power adjustments for the driver, are standard on the LX. The cushions are low and supportive, with a hand bulb to control the inflatable lumbar backrest support. A floor shifter for the locked-up torque converter automatic is also included. We like this slush box. And we like the steering wheel buttons of Ford's optional cruise control too, but the inverted V-shaped spokes of the Toyota-style wheel are badly out of place in a car where a firm grip is essential. Likewise, last year's Turbo T-Bird gauge package that gives only speed in RPM. It couldn't cost that much more to put the 85 Thunderbird's rally cluster, one of the best around, in here too. Long-distance attributes also got mixed reviews. It may be very quiet, only 64 decibels at 55, but feeling every expansion joint gets tiring. Also, we found EPA mileage ratings of 16 city and 22 highway, as well as our own test result of 18, to be a bit low. Still, this is not an economy car. Nevertheless, it is a 6-passenger bargain. The LTD-LX starts at $11,421. Air conditioning and a premium sound system are the single biggest items responsible for our test car's $13,795 final tag. Indeed, this is a true sports sedan by any measure. The Ford LTD-LX is a well-balanced package of both European and American virtues. It has satisfying V8 power, plus the handling that discerning drivers demand. While missing a few of the refinements of its transoceanic rivals, it also has public affordability. And when you cruise up behind unsuspecting drivers, they almost always let you pass. Although for the life of us, we can't figure out why.
And to send a very clear warning to the U.S. Biden administration.
Platform of the alliance whenever any particular topic came to the agenda.
Let's to thank one of our sponsors, Farmers Insurance.
Fear not, for I have come to save.
Way ahead of you. Switched her to Farmers so she could save an average of $437 on her home insurance.
Is thither nothing thou needed saving? An elder needed help crossing the road. I'm very good at that.
I'm good with the $437 I saved, but thank you.
If you need saving, get a quote from Farmers.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.